you need to continue to do those calls until you get it right.
You do mortgage, I do insurance. We should really talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast with Agency Performance Partners. We've got Heath, we have got Steven, and I am APP's Training and Operations Coordinator. And we are talking today about insurance agency business plan and how to structure for growth. Any introductions anybody want to make before we start this awesome?
Therese Potter, you're an old pro now.
I'm getting there.
So we all have nicknames now, I think. Like I'm the diva, he's the mayor, and Teresa's Chop Chop, in my opinion. I like to call her Chop Chop Potter because she gets it done, but she also does all kinds of martial arts. So if you need some bodyguarding or some agency organization, Teresa's your person.
Yeah.
Or just a bouncer for your next event.
Right. Yes, that as well. Tattoo Kempo and Tai Chi.
Yeah.
For your next insurance staff party, if you need a bouncer, Teresa's the one.
All right. So today we are going to talk about different things that build the agency plan. I started the blog out with outbound call guidelines because I think in an agency, the staff always say Kelly's most hated word, the word busy. They're always too busy. We did a podcast this morning about EFT and pay in full, and we discussed the fact that if somebody can take the time to be sitting there taking payments all day, they will. They prefer to take those payments because it's service work, it's easy, they know how to do it, there's no difficulty in it. But when it comes to actually cross-selling or outbound calls, they're scared of them. So we have to train our people to do outbound calls, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is by blocking time. Now, here at APP, we block time all the time. That's one of our guidelines is blocking times, especially as consultants. You guys, your schedules are full, blocked solid, so we have to go 2 or 3 weeks out to find space in your calendars. But when it comes to staff, what I used to do is I used to block one person on Tuesday morning, the other person Tuesday afternoon, and the one that had the morning on Tuesday would have the afternoon on Wednesday. So I'd switch it around and I'd move the time because sometimes they're better than others. Sometimes people will answer the phone at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning and sometimes they won't. So you have to move it around to find where the time block works. So what did you guys find in your agencies with time blocking? What worked in your agencies with time blocking for staff?
You go ahead, Steven.
I was going to say, I think having to hold them accountable to their time block. Like, why didn't that happen? Like, why didn't the calls get made? Why didn't XYZ get done? And it was because I had so-and-so call and blah, blah, blah. So I think we really have to get in the mindset of honoring the time block. Like, during this time, this is all I do. I'm going to stop. I'm going to do this task during this time, and then I can pick up again. And if it's really that big of an emergency, then we need to be reaching out and raising our hand and being like, hey, I can't get to my block right now because...
Right.
And sometimes I think we just come up with reasons why we can't get to our block.
The other big thing about that as well is making it transparent so everybody in the agency can see your time block. So that way, like at APP, we all know when Therese having a time block or when Steven or I, so I can look up and see, oh, Steven's in his time block, I better leave him alone and not blow him up with 47 text messages. And so, or emails or whatnot. And so I think another big part of the time block has to be transparency in the calendar system.
Right. And if you have staff members that do the sales and the service, they're going to say, oh, well, who's going to answer the phone? Who's going to answer the phone? So what I would do is I would switch them off. So while one was working their outbound calls, the other one was doing the service work and vice versa in the afternoon. I also leave a day where they don't block time. You may want to leave 1 or 2 days depending on the staff, the size of your staff. Like Mondays and Fridays usually aren't good days to do calls. Mondays, you're putting out fires for the weekend. Fridays, you're trying to prepare for that 2 days that people can't call in. So they're all calling on Friday. So sometimes you just want to do time blocks on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just to make it easier. And sometimes they may not get to their 10 or 15 calls or however many calls that they have to do during the day. So you give them until Thursday or Friday and say, okay, by Friday, this is the number of calls, outbound calls that you should have done. So if they don't get to them one day, they can get to them another. And by the end of the week, they should have their total amount of calls. Does that sound about right to you guys? All right.
Sounds good to me.
In our agencies, we're always talking about leads, trying to pay for leads, find good leads. What do we have in our agencies that are gold mines that we are not using as leads right now.
Quoted, not sold.
Quoted, not
Canceled
sold.
policies, or there's a whole lot of them right there at our fingertips, right there, gold in the mine, as you say, right there in our management system, that a lot of times they're just thinking about it, they're too lazy to do it, or they don't know. I don't know. It's just, but it's right there. I always tell people when they call me and say, what's the best lead service? I always say your own agency management system. Why are you paying for leads when they're right there?
I like to always think that if I decide to go back to the insurance agent side, I was like, just hire me as a producer, 1099, and I will cross-sell your entire book of business for 3 years on commission only.
Yep.
Right?
And kill it.
Normally, if there's enough there, it's just people are afraid to pick up the phone.
Well, and
Exactly.
one of the complaints is always, oh, I don't do cold calls, or I don't like to do cold calls. Well, guess what? Those calls are not cold calls. Those calls are actually warm calls. They're warm leads because you already have them. So start out with your cross sells. I mean, look for run lists of auto, no home, and call them about their homeowners policies. Home, no auto. Usually if they have a home, they have a car. And if they have home and auto, you can look at umbrellas, especially those high dollar homes and 4 cars. You want to push those umbrellas because people need them and they don't know they need them. So we're the licensed agents. We're the ones who need to inform them and educate them that they need umbrellas, especially those with kids or teen drivers. Umbrellas are really important in that stage. So
100%.
any other big cross sells?
Well, I had, back to Steven's point earlier, just a few minutes ago, I had an agent come to me when I was an agency owner and said, he was a life guy. He goes, I want to come in and sell life with all your PNC and try to cross sell those. So he was able to walk in and have thousands of customers right there for him to call and say, hey, I'm so-and-so with this agency. You have your home and auto here. We'd love to talk about your life. And what he did at that point was he just took the face amount for the homeowner's policy and it's like, okay, you have a $300,000 home. I'm going to write you a life policy for that amount for 20 years and you get your house paid off. Boom. And it was like
mortgage protection.
No, shooting fish in a barrel or whatever you call that. I'm not a fisherman, but you know what I mean?
And there are ways to do it. So once you decide the group of people you're calling on, make focus words, because sometimes you talk to younger people. If you mention life insurance to younger people, they're like, oh, no, I don't need that. They don't want to think about that. So find the age groups that these people are in and use keywords for that age group. So somebody that just bought a home, mortgage protection is a great way to sell that one. Sometimes parents with kids selling college funds. So life insurance, there's ways to sell that. You just have to find the words that work. And sometimes what I would do is I'd call out and it would be awful. The person would answer and they'd be like, oh, I'm not interested. And you can't stop just because you get one no or you get one bad call. You need to continue to do those calls until you get it right. And what's exciting about it is you call and your third call, you're like, oh yeah, I got him. I've got the lead. And you pass the lead to somebody and that kind of gets you heated up.
Oh yeah.
To go ahead and do the rest of them. And it's funny, after you're excited about that third one that you got, then your fourth and your fifth end up being leads too.
And once you do write some of those, then that's just one more policy to keep them on the books even longer. It's going to help your retention that much more by having that other policy in there. So now it's home, auto, umbrella, and life, or home and auto and umbrella. It's just one more dagger right there that's going to keep them right there. One more way to keep them there.
I think the other thing we tend to do too is get hyper focused on what we know. But kind of like Heath was saying about the life guy, like he came in and was like, hey, let me cross sell your book. But if we have a department that can do it, does it hurt to ask about commercial to a personal end customer? Like, hey, do you own a business? Who does your insurance? Or you're a manager? Who makes those decisions where you work? Or life? Or benefits? Or whatever? I think it's everyone's responsibility to try to kind of fill the bucket of the agency when they're talking to a client about more than just the line that person specializes in.
Yep.
Right. So once they get through and they've got their list, cross-sell list, X-date list, win-back list, they distribute those. If they then decide they want to do leads, what are your guys' recommendations with leads for growth?
Go ahead, Stephen.
Crickets?
No, I'm sorry. I misunderstood the question. What is my recommendation for giving somebody leads?
For getting leads. So if they're looking for leads, what do you guys like for lead generation? What do you see as a good lead source?
I think that, again, we talked about the existing book of business or the database. I think also if you know somebody who is in an industry that's complementary, reach out to them and be like, hey, you do mortgage, I do insurance, we should really talk. Or the next time you
Yeah.
see them out or you're at dinner, you're like, why aren't we sending each other more business?
You know,
Well,
the
and
other thing on that same lines is everybody trusts their accountant. If you don't, get a new accountant. But most people trust their accountant. If you can work with them, they got a ton of people they could send you. Same thing with your financial planner. If you got a financial planner that's looking at your numbers, looking at what you got. Hey, I bet you could call Steven and probably save a little money on your homeowners next year. Why don't you call Steven Dakota over there and see what he's got? Or call Therese at this agency and see about your life insurance. I bet she might be able to get it cheaper. So they're just built-in referral sources right there for leads, in my opinion. You don't have to pay for them either. Maybe at dinner every now and then.
Well, and that's what I was fishing for, because a lot of agencies will go get the quote things that you get online and you sign up for those systems. And what they do is they get a click on an internet or something asking for a lead, and it shoots it out to like 10 different agents. And if you're not the first one to call them, you already lose, because now they've got 10 different agents calling them and they're frustrated and they don't want to talk to anybody else. And they're like, I've already talked to somebody. Or so those kind of leads just really don't get us anywhere. So we've got to think outside of the box. First of all, start with our book of business. Second of all, go to networking, Chamber of Commerce, different groups.
Yeah.
You might be on Facebook groups. There's Facebook groups out there of different businesses and stuff that you can get into, and you can get leads from there.
Yeah,
So
I think
there's so much. Go ahead.
Yeah, you nailed it with the networking. And that's where I grew my business the most. Believe it or not, I'm really shy, but I love going to networking events, and I feel like I shine really well in those. And that's a great place for someone to get out. Not only are you going to have some fun, shaking hands and kissing babies, but at the same time, you're going to be able to talk to them about referrals, talk to them about leads, find ways that y'all can help each other out in that. And I'd always say, I'm going to go to this event, kind of like we do at APP. If we go to IAOA or go to an event, we're not leaving unless we have X amount of dollars. And once you have that mindset, then you go in and you're talking to people with an intent, not only to make a friendship and a relationship, but also to give and receive referrals.
Right. And then one of the last thing that I put in the blog that I talk about a lot, and we talk about this a lot, is I think we forget we want our front door of our agency open to bring in all those new leads. We love that front door being open, but we forget to close the back door.
100%.
Forget about our retention. So if you've got all these leads coming in, all these quotes being sold, but all of your business is going out your back door, you're not growing. You could be in the negative because you're losing more than you're bringing in. What do you guys have about retention for your structure and your business plan for growth? What do you guys think about retention? What tips can you give on retention?
You know, I love that you brought this up, because obviously at APP, if you know anything about us, Kelly talks about proactive retention, and she talks about all this, and we teach that. And as I went through my first time of teaching the Apex retention course, one of the big things that stood out to me is most of them, you walk in it, they think of it as a retention play, and they ask about your ROI. The ROI comes in writing new business. The ROI comes in the cross sell when you're on that proactive call. Hey, it looks like we have your home and auto. We'd like to do this. Or you don't have adequate coverage here. Let's raise your limits here, or do this or that there. And it just brings in new business. Every piece of new that comes in from that call obviously hits that new business category, and you can have a lot going on there. And we started incentivizing and tracking that. It's like, holy smokes, from doing retention calls, we wrote this percentage of new business.
Steven, you have anything on retention?
I love retention. Retention makes me happy.
I think Steven's done with blog banter for today.
No. I was like, he was killing it. I was just like, go.
Oh, thank you.
Retention, making outbound phone calls to your current clients is really important. Even birthday calls make a difference. People are like, birthday calls? I'm like, yeah, you're not selling them anything. You're just letting them know that you care about them, that you're thinking about them on their birthday. And once you start doing them, it's only like 10, depending on your size of your book, obviously, but 10, 15, 20 calls a day. If you have somebody who answers the phone, you have them do the birthday calls. You could do automated emails as well for their birthdays. Just limit it to say, hey, happy birthday, I'm thinking about you.
That's one of the things you brought up a minute ago with how many, with the retention and the birthday calls, people think, oh, if I call my customer, I have to have like 15 calls a day. It really boils down like 6, maybe 7, depending on how large your book is. So it's not really as many as you might think. Now, if you've got 15, you got a big ass book and you're doing really well. But for the most part, can I say that? Beep. Sorry. But I think it's incredible that people think that, and then we could show them by doing a little bit of math. It's only 6 or 7 calls. And really then you only connect with 1 or 2 of them. So it's not that big of a deal. One of the things that I think is cool, and I think it's one of the things our good friend Chris Paradiso does, I'll give him a shout out. They do a birthday video that they send out. They put it on social media. And it's just him once a month walking around everybody's office, and they wave at the camera and say happy birthday. And it's just a really cool thing they do that adds a lot of value. You could send that out in email along with the phone call.
So does he just send that to everybody like who has a December birthday or something?
Yeah, but they changed up every month in case Teresa and her husband have birthdays in different months. It doesn't look like it's the same video. It looks a little bit different. Not to give away your secrets, Chris, but he does a great job with that. And I think it's super cool.
I'm sure he's happy to share that.
Yeah, he's a great giver.
Basically, to wrap it up, you're looking at insurance agency business plan and how to structure for growth. You want to start with inside your agency with what you have, the warm calls you can do with cross-sell to X-States, win-backs. Then you can go to leads. But when you go to leads, do networking and people you know, connections in your community, even volunteering works for that. And then you step into the retention side of it because you need to make sure that you're keeping that back door closed while the front door is open. So you want all those sales to come in the front door. You want the back door closed so all of your retention stays in your agency. And that's the way to grow your agency. So we thank you guys for coming. We hope you visit our website, agencyperformancepartners.com. Check out our 3-minute videos. Sign up for those. Those are great little tidbits that Kelly does. And Heath and Steven and I are starting to do them as well. So we're here for you. If you guys have any questions, shoot us an email or a contact form on our website, and we'll be happy to help. Thanks so much. Take care, guys.
Have a good one.